So the Rockets prepare for their second straight home game as we welcome in Mike Robinson. You hear him every Saturday or Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday or wherever the Rockets are playing. He is the sideline analyst on the Toledo Rocket Radio Network. Mike Rob, thank you for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mark.
So they opened the season on Thursday. We were both there, and we mentioned this to each other at the game Thursday. What a tremendous atmosphere at the Glass Bowl as the UT students came out. Jason Candle said that made a difference, particularly early on. Hopefully we see that again this Saturday.
You know, all the students came out in groves and the launch pad was rocking there in the Glass Bowl. It was an awesome night. High school students were out, parents, fans, everybody alike. So it was a really good atmosphere, and you could see why Coach Candle was happy because they got really, really loud once those teams got close to the end zone.
Do we discount it being a shutout because it was only LIU, or should every shutout be celebrated? Because in football, it's difficult to hold a team scoreless now.
No, and I think you're 100% right. You can't hold them, liable and say, hey, well, you're playing a lower team. No, a shutout is a shutout. You beat that team pretty good, and that's a team with roster players that's on scholarships, right? So they go out there, no excuses. The Rockets haven't had that in a couple of years. I think maybe 3 or 4 years they hadn't had a shutout. So getting back to that, and with this defense and with the defensive line, it's really good, especially when you got Desjuan Johnson up front.
Let's talk a little about offense. We thought there might be some issues. We didn't have the skill guys that we've had in years past. We're waiting to see who's going to emerge. You put up 30-some points, but that first half, that first quarter and the third quarter struggled, both of those two quarters, to put any points on the board.
Well, Coach Candle said it best in the press game. You got 5 new starters out there on the football field trying to get a groove, a new full-time starter at quarterback, although DQ had experience from last season. Now you got this whole group. You're missing your 2 big guys up front with Bergen and Long. That is a very tough situation, but you know what? I thought they gelled and they figured it out. This is a football team that's going to get better as the season goes along, Mark. They're going to have to take their lumps and bumps. Even though they had a slow start, they still end up putting up 37 points. They didn't cover the spread, though.
What positives do you take out of the offense in that win over the Sharks?
I mean, what I took positive out of this was DQ. His confidence there in the pocket. He sat back. He made the right decisions. He made a couple bad passes, and he owned up to that. And that's showing you the maturity and the leadership in that quarterback room. But more importantly, I like the running backs. I liked all 3 running backs. I think they played 4 running backs, maybe 5 or 6. I think everybody got in this game. But they have a really, really good running back room, and they're going to continue to get better. And those wide receivers on the outside, they're going to get better as the offensive play calling, start meshing with what the offense can do for them.
Mid-American Conference has been around for a while, and like many middle-aged folks, they have expanded and shrunk. And one of the ways they expanded was a couple years ago. Temple and UMass were both conference teams. So as the Rockets play UMass, yes, they used to be in the MAC. Toledo, though, did beat UMass the 2 times they played when they were both in the MAC. This is a UMass program that has struggled mightily the last several years, though. Yeah,
absolutely. And the Rockets went out to Amherst last year to get the big victory last time. And they went out there and they handled this team seemingly pretty easily. Koback was a big part of that game plan. You saw a lot of guys get touches, and you can expect that this time around. You're going to look for, a little bit more play action pass, a little bit more inside run, because this is a team that's not going to, show you anything that they haven't put on film. Don Brown's defense is on there. We saw what they did versus Tulane, which I think Toledo's a little bit better than what Tulane may be. We'll see. Maybe we'll get a nice bowl game matchup versus them, right? But at the end of the day, what you like to see is that they come out being physical and assertive, and they continue to carry that 5-yard per average carry when they're running the rock.
Minutemen head coach Don Brown, as you mentioned, that's the former Michigan defensive coordinator. Highly respected defensive coordinator. Is defense what the Minutemen hang their hats on this year?
No. I think you go to the other side. I mean, it's crazy. I sat back and watched the whole football game, or 3-4 quarters of it, and after a while, you're not watching the 4th quarter of the Tulane game versus UMass. But when you watch the football game, Campanelli, their quarterback, he is really good. But they also have 2 quarterbacks. Olsen played last year. He made the start. He got the job done, and now he's got to split time with Campanelli. He's a younger guy, and he's kind of coming with like Buckner over at Notre Dame. You got the passing quarterback and you got your rushing quarterback, and that's the kind of offense. They got 2 running backs. They got Merriweather and they got Baldwin. Both of those guys are pretty good football players, and they got a really good left tackle as well. So they're not as bad as they could be, but offensively, they can score points if you don't stop the quarterback run.
On paper, Toledo should win this game easily. We have seen in the past, though, on paper, Toledo sometimes struggles against teams that they should beat easily. Considering what's coming up next, trip to Ohio State, trip to San Diego State, then you get into the conference play, how important is it for UT to start off 2-0?
All I think is they're going to start off 2-0. It's how they're going to start off 2-0. They got to come out here and they got to be road graders again. They got to control the ball, and they got to score points earlier and often. Last week you could say it to, the defense. They did come out there with a crazy defense, 3 down, 4 down, 5. I mean, they did everything to confuse the Toledo offense, and they did a pretty good job. Not sustainable. So I think the Rockets offense long-term is sustainable. They're going to be able to make some plays, and going forward, you don't worry about Ohio State. You don't worry about those other games. You just got to come out here and make sure DQ can put up points on the board, and more importantly, he can throw several touchdown passes, because that's what's going to help lift this Rockets offense.
It's going to be September. It's going to be warm, but this has got a Cold War feel to it because it's Rockets and Minutemen. Minutemen missile was one of the big missiles during the Cold War era. Always warm, and Mike Robinson is here with us. Mike Rob, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.